What's up? I'm Dewa. This is the Dank Moms podcast. This one episode, at least, is going to be a review of the new season of True Detective on HBO. It's called Night Country, and it stars Jodie Foster and Kali Reis as the two main detectives. And I'm hella amped that this show's on, and that first, I liked the show a lot for first season, and this fourth season, I mean, the other two seasons in the middle, they're fine, I guess, except for the one with Vince Vaughn. I did not like that one. That one, I don't even understand that one. I would rather have not had that one happen. But now we're at the fourth season, and I just love this one a lot because the two main characters are women, and it is set in, I think it's supposed to northernmost city to the Arctic. Does that make sense? I don't know much about geography, so whatever. That's what they said on the description. But the city's name is Ennis, and most of the characters are indigenous or white, or like also mixed. But those are kind of the two forces that are at odds in this particular season. At least that's my takeaway on it, but I'll give a little overview of episodes 1 and 2, and I have some, I don't know, I just have some thoughts on it because I fucking love these HBO, I don't know, these HBO series, such as, I don't know, just the ones that have different characters on every season. I'm trying to think off the top of my head anything other than True Detective, but I really like True Detective. Put it at that. Okay, so I think this is most closely related to season 1, so that's good. And so the two main characters, like I said, are Liz Danvers, played by Jodie Foster, and Evangeline Navarro, played by Kali Reis. And basically what happens so far when you enter it is that they start on the first day of, it's set in Ennis, Alaska, and the first day of when there's no daylight, because they have a period of time where there's no daylight. So it's basically like in the Pacific Northwest, after we go through fall back, we basically only have about, between certain times of the year, we have between 6 and 8 hours of daylight, which is really little. But I think that, so, the more north you go, you have less daylight. So it's often seems like it's a creepy period and crazy stuff happens. So in this case, the show starts on season 1 where there's it opens on, it's kind of like a off-the-grid research, a scientific research lab in Ennis, kind of like not part of the town, and something weird happens, and the electricity goes out in this factory. Now the laboratory, it has probably, I think they said 8 scientists that are there, and they're all doing from different parts of the world, and they're all like, there's a Chinese dude, there's a Ukrainian dude, there's a Russian dude, I think there's somebody from Brazil. They're from all over, and a couple Americans. Now I think and a couple Americans. But it sets there, and you just kind of see them hanging out, doing their thing. I don't know what they do. It's all men. That's what you do know. And they seem to be like, just all men. And so you find out like everybody's just like kicking it a regular night, and then all of a sudden all the electricity goes crazy, and one of the dudes looks to the side and he goes, "She's here." No, first he kind of like has an electrical shock, and then it just zaps closed. Next thing you know, you find out that the delivery driver comes, and he finds out. So they end up finding out that these people are missing from that laboratory. And then, let me think. Oh yeah, so they're missing from the laboratory, and then people start to look for them to find out if there's foul play. So that's when Jodie Foster came in. And so like when you see Liz Danvers at first, I just think that Jodie Foster has a way of embodying her characters that we don't see very often, that actors or actresses even are able to access parts of themselves or parts of the character that when they're just walking in, you just know that's a detective. That person's got a story. And also, it made me think about Clarice from Silence of the Lambs, because Silence of the Lambs was the last time I really remember seeing Jodie Foster in that like kind of detective role. I'm sure she did other things, or FBI role. And there's just very much a vibe of like young detective with Silence of the Lambs in Agent Starling, and old detective Liz Danvers in the North. They're not like the same, but I just like the way that she embodies it. And also she's like the head. I don't know if she's the captain, but she's like bossing these other two dudes around the whole time. They both have other roles to play, but I'm just going to focus in on her. And I think she just does a remarkable performance of embodying a person who's kind of like sent out to the outskirts of civilization. I'm doing quotes on that because I don't really think, I mean, that's just how that's kind of a sensitive thing when you're talking about what I think are the two sides that are at play in this dichotomy, is kind of like indigenous culture versus, like science versus white supremacy, and how those two things collide, and what happens basically. And so that's what I kind of am understanding about this season of True Detective that maybe I didn't understand in previous series, is that they're kind of giving a lot of red herrings. So it's not just supernatural, but it's spiritual, and that it's like older than time, something like deep. There's that portion, but then there's also this other part that is something else that just happens to be running at the same time. So no one's to say that the crimes or the things that happen, I mean, who's to say if the crimes what happened were a spiritual event, or if they were a something else. They were something else that's happening. I don't know if that even makes sense, but Evangeline Navarro is the other character, and I was thinking like, Jodie Foster is kind of representing, not even kind of, she's just a white lady, just a basic ass white lady coming in kind of into this town trying to do law and order, and we all know about police and whatnot. So Evangeline Navarro is played by Kali Reis, I think her name is, and she's a professional boxer, and she's also indigenous. And so that was dope to see and have her cast in the role, she's actually perfect for this role. But she's also a very kind of tough on the outside, tough girl personality, obviously because she's a police. And seeing them work off each other is pretty impressive because they're both so strong and nobody's backing down. And I think that that's a compelling, it's a compelling, I don't know, part of their characters that we want to watch. Like, I want to watch these two characters have some kind of conflict. But there's also there's a shaman-ish character played by what I think is a white woman. And there's what else did they have? They had like, I'm just looking through my notes real quick. And basically what happens is these men are missing, and these men are missing because of some kind of supernatural event. And then, so they're first looking at it as a missing persons and where did they go. But then they get a tip from the local shaman, and they end up finding out that they were out on the ice, and they find the dead bodies, but it's like all a big ass chunk of ice, and they're in this big chunk of ice. Now that's the thing. I don't know how they got in the ice. I don't know why we're trying to figure out what happened. Like, they're very mangled. I mean, they're in one piece, but they're also like, their eyes are burned out. They got bite marks. Some of them got tattoos all of a sudden. They're like, got frostbite, and their faces are very anguished, and they're butt ass naked. That's the other thing. They're all butt ass naked. And because if it was women, they would have been all up in the titties. There would have been so many titty shots. And I'm just like, can you zoom in on their dicks just so we can see it a little bit? Like, just so we can kind of like figure it out, what's going on. Or just like, just for fun, like just for, you know, well, anyways, for equality. That's the word I was looking for equality. Anyways, so what I do see is a lot of the themes are also like mixing, like how do two cultures live together, indigenous and colonizer, and what happens when they mix, what happens when a colonizer starts like a relationship with someone who is indigenous, like what happens in that power dynamic. And I think that's really interesting for them to kind of explore in this series, because like in the first one they did have race involved, because race is always involved, but it was like the issues of the two men were kind of, I don't know, to me the issues were basic in that what's his name? Dude, what was his name? Anyways, Woody Harrelson was like a philanderer, and fucking Matthew McConaughey is a weirdo, so and how do weirdos and like macho men coexist? So I don't know. I thought it was interesting, but not as interesting as I find these two women. Whatever, I'm biased, but it's true. There's a more dynamic story to tell when, so Liz Danvers, Jodie Foster, she has a child, but the child is not there. She has a stepdaughter. She obviously was married to somebody or has children with somebody who is a brown person. I'm assuming that they're indigenous because her child is brown. Her stepchild is brown, and it looks like in the flashback sequences, her husband, who's no longer there, was an indigenous person. But I like that they're approaching it head on like that. They're not trying to beat around the bush. And so throughout the characters and all the other dynamics, all the other ancillary characters, there's still that dynamic in each one. Like her daughter dates this white chick. Her assistant is like, not assistant, but whatever his name is. He is like, he's in an interracial relationship, or intercultural and interracial relationship. And basically everybody is. She is, Navarro is, like everybody is in some sort of mixed relationship. That also comes and ties with, I forgot to say, is the mine. So there's a company and a mine there in the town of Ennis. And it, if I did not start, okay, in the town of Ennis. And there is a divide because, the people who work for the mine, and the mine obviously brings money, so the mine brings a lot of what is that called, money, income, prosperity to the town, but at the sake of environmental damage or environmental discrimination. I'm sure they don't give a fuck about like the laws and the regulations of where you can dump or how you clean up and that type of things, but those things are always meant to rule in favor of the capitalist ruling class. It's not going to really, nothing is going to turn out great for the indigenous people. Nothing's going to turn out great. So the water's dirty, the kids get sick. That's all insinuated, that the water's dirty, the kids get sick from the mine, but then the mine brings money. So there's a lot of stress about that. But the other kind of odd thing is that I'm noticing, and I want to see where they're going with it, is they really pushed hard on the aspect of both of these people, both of these women, seemingly hetero women, or at least that's how they're portraying them right now, kind of being like hoes. Like they got like Danver, they got her, they've shouted out her fucking body count so many times that I'm not really sure where they're going with that. Like excessively talking about her body count. They're like, the teacher, she went in, she apparently she fucked the teacher, and the teacher thought she was coming to fuck him again and dismissed the class. Like that's how she be rolling in, I guess. And he said, not again, not again. Kind of makes me feel like she's come to the class before and was like cleared the class and then fucked the dude. So I was like, okay. And then where was the other thing. Oh yeah, and her captain. She had sex with her captain. She had sex with the ice rink lady's husband. I mean, they insinuate that she's bagged a lot of people, as well as Navarro. Navarro is also known for that, and now she is very, and both of them have the same type of attitude around heterosexual sex. They just come in and they're basically like, you know, no condoms and no last names. Like, there's no love in that for who they're sleeping with. But, cause there's a very intense, almost like, a very upsetting, almost like sex scene with Navarro and the owner of the local watering hole restaurant. His name is Kavik. And she's just like going at him and he's like, stop. Like, I don't want to come yet or something. And then she doesn't listen, and she's like kind of laughing about it. Ooh, and I don't know, that was messed up. But then I also look at it as like this, the overpowering and dominating of somebody against, so I don't know. I do also like that. So like Jodie Foster's assistant or whatever, deputy, the other detective, he kind of has like, well, anyways, she kind of like bosses him around, is very dominant towards him, and it seems that they're giving the vibe that she's just basically always like that. But what was I was gonna say? All right, so enough about those two. Oh yeah, and then when later on in the episode 2, when Jodie Foster character Liz Danvers goes to Navarro's house, but she's there already before Navarro gets there, so she's pretty fucking rude. Anyways, number one thing that she said was, where do you put the soup? You're not putting the soup where it was before, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And so obviously they've had a relationship before where Liz has been over there putting away groceries. I don't know why, but it may have something to do with the fact that Navarro's basically sister was killed, and she was a detective on the case, and maybe Liz had something to do with that or not. But then they say something about this. She said, what about the Wheeler thing? Are we ever going to talk about the Wheeler thing? And then I was like, what was that? Like, was that a case? What was it? I don't know. Maybe it was a 3-way. But the other, yeah, so I don't know if it was a 3-way or what was it. But they obviously have a backstory that we don't know what to do with. I like to believe that they were in a relationship before. I think that they, but I don't know, the personalities don't go, so maybe that's why it didn't work out. Or maybe they're like, I don't know, maybe their signs are not complementary, because I really do see them not, like, who's gonna be the top. I mean, I don't think either. The reason why I said that is because they're two tops. I don't think they would switch. But anyways, so the incident happens on December 17th. And then 4 days later, on December 21st, the 4th day of the night, the shaman is visited by her ex-lover, who's supposed to be Cole from Rust from the first series, Matthew McConaughey's character's dad, supposedly his dad. That's what they're saying. So he told the shaman where the bodies were through a dance. He came from the other side and told her where they were. That's the part is hella scary, though, is when they show all these bodies that are frozen in ice. They're butt naked and they're scary. But the thing about that is, like, everybody's saying when they see the bodies, they think, why were they like this? Were they running? It looked like they fell into a big thing of water, like they were being pushed into something of water. But they're all butt naked. To me, it looks like they definitely fell into like something and they were falling and then they got encased in water. That's what I think feels like it happens. So anyway, this is our episode also. They had, what's that guy? As they're taking the ice people apart, I mean, the men encased in ice as they're trying to excavate them. One of the other police officers breaks off an arm, and the other guy, and then one of the bodies comes to life. See, when I first watched it, I didn't know that, like, the body came to life. I thought it was, like, possessed or something, because I guess I missed the part where they said, so anyways, they're chipping away at the ice sculpture, and then all of a sudden, the body just starts going, ah, and I'm like, oh, shit. And so when the ice sculpture starts yelling, the guy, I didn't know what happened, because then it cuts to the intro. So I was like, what happened to him? But upon further review, I watched this episode 3 times now. Upon further review, they did say right after the intro that he was put into an induced coma and that he was going to have something amputated. I don't know what, I think they said a limb. They didn't specify the limb, but the limb was going to get amputated. I don't know how they're going to make that happen, because how are you going to be frozen for 4 days, the 17th to the 21st? I mean, I guess you could say maybe they weren't frozen for 4 days. Maybe they didn't die until the day before their bodies were found. That is a possibility. I don't know. I'm assuming they were frozen for 4 days and come back to life. That's bizarre. And oh yeah, the lab, it was called Salal. Tsallal, and what they were trying to do, and what they were out there for so long in that lab for, because they were out there for many years, I guess a decade at least, it seems like. They were trying to extract some kind of enzyme, DNA, from the earth that potentially could stop cellular decay, cancer, but they can't pull it out, can't extract it without ruining it. So that's kind of what they were studying out there. So yeah, I don't know. What else? I don't know. I just felt like some of the other themes I was seeing is like, when they have the bodies in the ice, they're trying to think of ways to keep it so it doesn't melt, and also the tissue doesn't get compromised. So they end up getting it put into the local ice rink, because the ice rink is owned by the mine, and the mine. But the weirdest thing was, like, when they just, the way that they depict the haphazard nature in which they handle specimens is hella funny, because they just put it on the back of like a flatbed and they brought it through town, and when they brought it into the ice rink and they pulled the tarp off of it, like, homie just put the tarp on the bodies. He didn't even build like a little structure. Like, I was thinking they would like build like a little frame or like a little box or something to put around it. So like when they went to pull the fucking tarp off, it was like, to me, it was like seeming they were like, you know, like ripping some skin off and ripping some hair off. It was just like right on their face. Like if you were hauling some garbage in the back of your fucking old Toyota truck, you just threw it on top, the tarp right on top, and just yank it out. And you know how sometimes like some branches come out or whatever. It's like, tie that down right. Even I know that you should, well, anyways, it don't even matter. But yeah. And I love how, I'm curious also about like Hank, who is Danvers, I don't know, peon, I don't know what the right word is, but they have this whole other storyline where he's getting scammed by someone online. He's getting catfished, it seems like. And I was just like, who's still getting scammed like that in this day and age? I mean, I don't know what day and age. I guess it's in 2020. I'm not sure what year it is. I need to double check. I know what months these are. I know that the other thing that I know is that Liz's husband, when she was married, that she cheated on him. That was made clear, because I think she cheated on him with the captain while they were married. And that also her husband was an artist. And what else is it? Yeah, so I know her husband was an artist, and they had a kid, and the kid is no longer alive, so the kid is passed. Yeah, so I don't know. I have a note here that said all the tough women flirt the same. Like they do a lot of negging, which is kind of weird but to see, but I think it is true. I feel like that is an accurate depiction because I'm also a strong woman, and sometimes in the past when I was younger, I think I may have been like Navarro said to her love interest, like, I don't know if it's a love interest, but this dude that she fucks, she like busts into his house all the time and doesn't tell him. She stole his toothbrush, his SpongeBob electric toothbrush, and then she fucks him almost against his will, and then she laughs in his face. So he's taking a bath, and she sneaks in, scares the shit out of him, and she was like, "You wanna fuck?" And he's like, and she's like, "Oh, you jerked off? Oh, you can't fuck because you jerked off?" It's kind of embarrassing and messed up, but also hella funny because it's women, and that's what makes it better because we know what world we live in, so we can do that kind of shit. Anyway, I'm getting the feeling that Liz's son and husband died probably from a result of the mine or something like that. And I don't know, I went back and watched the first season's first episode too so that I could kind of understand what's going on. And I guess in one way there is supposed to be a connection between Rust and the guy Travis who died on the ice. But then I also read something on Wikipedia that said that storyline in the episode synopsis, they said that story was made up, so that the Rust made that story up because he went somewhere else or he fucking murdered somebody and they're trying to cover it up. I don't know, but it seemed like that was story. So I don't know, maybe that was a misunderstanding from Wikipedia, or I'd like to see how they explain that. And I also am really trying to understand the relationship between Navarro and Jodie Foster and what's going to happen. Because basically, by the time the episode ends, what has happened in the episode is the dead bodies are brought to the ice rink. The ice rink is going to slowly melt them. As those bodies melt, more information and clues are going to be uncovered. The relationships that are revealed is Liz's daughter's cultural identity, and the lovers, a smattering of lovers, and the connection between Annie K's murder and the Salal murder is fully realized. And so it's tied together with that crazy circle thing from, I shouldn't call it a crazy circle thing, I have no idea what it is, but the circle emblem from the first season, it's in this season, and it's on a dead body's forehead. It's on one of the missing lab workers, quote unquote scientist, Clark. His name is, they call him Clark. He has it on his chest. Annie K had it on her back. It's on the ceiling of this creepy ass trailer that they end up finding. So, I mean, I just really wanted to talk about that and the episode, and also talk about that. I think that in the first season, I thought they were all the things and all the clues were connected, but I know that's not how it's always done. I just thought there was a lot of clues and connections that were left, and it felt like it's kind of similar to Game of Thrones, where they like maybe lost money or something at the end, and so they had to wrap it up because the ending of the first season was horrible. And then with this season, there's a lot of similarities. And I think they're going to give us a lot of red herrings too, because you just have to keep every clue that they leave that you think is a clue or a connection might not be, because they, according to how they did it, like based on how they did it the first season, there's just going to be red herrings, such as the shaman lady. Like, what is she going to do? What does she have to do with this story? Because the creepiest part of this episode, or one of the creepiest parts, because this is creepy all the way through, one of the creepiest parts was at the end of the episode. So it starts with screaming, and then the end of the episode, there's more screaming, and it zooms in kind of on Rose Ingenue, who is the shaman, white shaman. I'm like, can you please put a visibly indigenous person in the shaman role and not a white person, please. But anyways, I'll take who it was because I like that actress. But she is having something happen that's causing her to scream in a really creepy way in the last kind of scene before they do the wrap up on on the episode. So I'd like to see how that turns out. There's a lot of things hanging out there. Also, I think I saw Clark. So then at the end, when the bodies start melting, they find out that there is only 6 bodies in there, and there's 2 bodies that are missing. And one of them is Clark, and he has that connection to Annie K, who's another murder that they're trying to connect. So I'm interested in seeing where this season's going to go, and I'm going to keep doing the podcast, and I might do it in different ways. And I think I'm going to ask my friend to come in and chime, who also, just to bounce stuff off of. But yeah, I think one of the biggest themes is, I think that they're doing is normalizing horror as a metaphor to what indigenous cultures are forced to sustain. What supports my argument is that they had the dead bodies, right? They brought it through the middle of town, and it's very scary. What they look like is very scary. Now the public couldn't see what it looked like, but that there's dead bodies in there, right? And then it goes to like what is basically like a very public ice rink, and they shut it down and they put the bodies in there, but you clearly can see them at all times. Her daughter walks up to the bodies, and that's traumatizing, horrifying what that looks like. Then the rink lady just walks up to it. Random police people. I mean, it's just very easy to get in and get out. But what you do is they keep showing the dead bodies. They keep showing the scary, horrific looks. And it comes to a point where it's just another accessory in the background, like the hockey sticks or the coffee machine. Like people are walking by it like it ain't bodies decaying, but whatever. So yeah, I think one of the biggest themes is the horrific acts that are done, and then we have to normalize them. And it's really just the gaslighting of being in a country that has colonized and has perpetuated genocide in the name of, I don't know what, capitalism, American exceptionalism. Anyways, I'm Dewa. You can leave a comment underneath the video if you have any questions, or if you're just listening to it online. I'm going to do this again. Watch True Detective. It's on Sunday nights, whatever 8 p.m. is where you live. So 8 p.m., I guess 5 p.m. Is it 5 p.m.? 8 p.m. in East Coast is 5 p.m. in the West Coast. So I'd be watching it at 5 if I could, but I don't. I don't watch it at 5, but I could. But you could do that too. So anyways, watch it, stream it, and then, I don't know, join in. It's a really good show. I think it's important in this time to be showing more women, diverse characters, women who aren't just talking about men and sex and marriage and babies and blah, blah, blah. Like, this show definitely passes the Bechdel test, so that's dope. And, this is what I was going to say. Also, Clark, I'm fairly certain Clark is still alive, and he's kicking it at the plant, because I swear his naked ass was there when the delivery guy came through. I saw a scurry. I don't know if anybody else saw the scurry, but I saw the scurry. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you next time. My name is Dewa. This is Dank Moms, True Detective, Night Country podcast. Peace.